So it's important to remember that with a lot of opportunities in this world for business or you know it might be research, whatever whatever you're looking at. You want to often opportunities lie in places that there are social norms that prevent you from going there, and everybody else is kind of uncertain or nervous or doesn't know what to do within that particular area, and they avoid to go in that particular domain because of social norms, and things like stigma, for example, and we avoid those particular areas, which allows it to be a lot less crowded of a space for people to be in and to do good things eventually. Um, a perfect example of this is like the marijuana space, right? Where it was highly, or even alcohol during Prohibition, where it was highly limited in terms of who can get access to Prohibition or to alcohol. Um, and actually, because of that, that allowed the people that were willing to go in those domains, even though that they were illegal in the United States, back in what was it, I think it was the teens, right? The 19s. I forget the exact times when Prohibition was on, but this allowed some businesses to thrive and to do extraordinarily well. And some of the largest alcohol businesses around are because of Prohibition, and some of the largest, basically, entertainment businesses are around because of Prohibition. And those folks were willing to go in that particular area and pursue it. Now, it was considered, not only ethically, morally, but also, it was illegal, right, in terms of the thing that you're doing. And that takes a lot for a person to do that. And I'm not saying to go do illegal things to find these particular opportunities, these business opportunities or research opportunities. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is to look for areas that there's stigma associated with it. And, even if it's mild stigma that's associated with it, there's always opportunities in those areas because people avoid them and they're nervous around them and they don't know how to act in them. And so if you can frame the problem and figure out how to frame it such that you can get more people to come along on your journey, I think that you're going to have a lot more success than going into something that is very densely populated, and there's a lot of competition there. Now, that I'm not saying to go do something completely unusual either and to go in sort of weird things, but it's thinking of what is the stuff that people really want and need, but then going in those. So you could go into a very crowded market space, for example. And often people sort of have that mistake that you shouldn't go to a place, a crowded market space, because there's too much competition. But a lot of it is going into that sort of crowded market space and then framing it such that it's serving something in a certain way, serving someone in a certain way that wouldn't have been done before because of, just people feel uncomfortable about it. These opportunities lie in those particular spaces as well. So it could be completely crowded. What am I thinking of? It could be grocery stores, right? But there might be an underserved market for, whether it's a vegan grocery store. You would have to have a large enough population, I guess, to have that. Or, maybe it is a carnivore grocery store, one that's really focused on meat products, for example, the sort of area, those particular domains that, that there's stigma associated with it, with either way, either domain, or maybe, one that is serving a certain demographic, for example, that, people are just kind of nervous about or don't know how to sort of react in that that is a stigmatized group, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Whatever that stigmatized group is, and those areas are actually um, are the ways that you can sort of open up market spaces, and you can go and do something that is not only in demand but also somewhat original. And that's where you often find opportunities. And you have to think about it in the long run, though. This is the thing that you might get messed up, is you might think about this. Oh, I can go and do this. It's like the marijuana, industry. You might be thinking, man, I can go into it and it's going to be so lucrative like this year, and it's really not the case. I mean, there was a window, but it was a long run trend that was happening for a long time. And being that person that sort of establishes it and makes it legitimate, not sort of sketchy. I think that there is a lot of room for that, but it takes a long time. It takes, at least a decade. And the more stigmatized it is, it might take longer. And in fact, it might never change, some of these things, but you might establish yourself as a leader in that particular area. So that's what I'm suggesting for you to look at, is anytime that you feel uncomfortable, that likely means that you're bumping up against social norms, and that uncomfortableness is a good indicator for you to sort of pursue that area. Um, and you have to find the thing that's comfortable for you and pursue those things, right? So this is exactly what comedians do. Every single comedian goes to the spaces that are uncomfortable, and because it makes us uncomfortable. There's like social norms against a lot of these things, so they'll end up going to really, really, uncomfortable spaces, and we feel nervous about. But that's all they're doing, is opening up those spaces. And then, at this moment, right now, it might seem like, oh man, that comedian is so edgy. They're so on the edge, but in 10 years or 20 years, when things change, they don't appear that way. Now, it could go the opposite, where they seem really like on the edge. That does happen in culture, but in general, there's a tendency to be a little bit more liberal, as we're sort of moving things. Not everything has done that, but there is a tendency, in culture, to become a little bit more liberal over time. So just have that in mind as you're doing this, and look for those opportunities. I think that you'll be able to find them. And there's actually a lot of them available. And you just have to have the courage to do it. You have to be the one person that stands up and actually does it, because most people are not going to have that courage. So with that, hopefully you like this podcast. Leave me a comment below, or comment in the podcast section. I really do appreciate it. It's kind of cool to see these things. And, let me know what you're interested in sort of thinking about, and then we can have a conversation about it. So thanks again. Have a good one, and we will see you on the next podcast. All right. Take care. Bye.